Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Checked Before. This time, the Sword of, I'm going to say it wrong, the Sword of Kahless. Deep Space Nine, Klingon time once again. Guess what it's time for once again? Me to tell you, hey, follow us on Patreon. Patreon.com/IBD. That's how you find us. Not only do you get our extra stuff, our special episodes that are Patreon only, get to see our faces, get the extra stuff per week. You also get it from the mothership. It's All Been Done Radio Hour. Hopefully you're listening to that. If you're not following them, jump in there. You're going to dig it. There's all kinds of great stuff over there. And I think if you dig our nonsense, you're going to dig the nonsense over there. Patreon.com/IBD. Like not even a cup of coffee, especially if you probably like good coffee. It's like Klingon coffee. And that's what we're going to talk about at some point. Sword of Kahless, Deep Space Nine. It's all been checked before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Tracked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
Olivia James, and we are here to talk the Sword of Kahless. It's Kahless, right?
Kahless, yeah.
Kahless.
I'm trying to keep that in my brain, but I want to say Kahless, but yeah.
Right? I don't know. First impressions of that episode.
I started in an area of... And I mean, I love core. I love Worf too, but like Klingons, and we're talking about honor and yada yada yada. It felt like a TNG episode for a while, but then I thought once, and I didn't take a ton of notes, so, and it wasn't necessarily. And maybe at first I was like, okay, I've already seen this, and then I was like, okay, I'm kind of into this. But then I thought it takes a turn about halfway through and gets really good. I thought once it's just Core and Worf and Dax in the, heaven forbid, in the caves. And then I thought it got really interesting, and I thought it made Worf more interesting. I thought it made Core more interesting for that matter too. And I thought it made all the Klingon nonsense they were speaking earlier make more sense once they start to get really obsessed with being the one to, I'm going to say it, to bring honor to the Empire or whatever by returning it.
Bring balance to the Force.
Yeah, that too. So I ended up liking it. I don't know that I loved it, but I ended up liking it. Yeah, so that's why I named it.
I would say it wasn't as good as the original episode that brought back the 3 old Klingons in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And part of that is because we didn't have the 3 of them, because 2 of them were killed off. Mm-hmm. But it was still really nice to see Core, and it was really nice to involve Worf in that. There's a lot of positive things to say about this episode, but there's also some things that just felt a little flat. Mm-hmm. I will say, right off the bat, that I listened to the Greatest Generation guys' review of this. I did not listen to their Voyager one from last week before we talked about that, but I listened to this one. And I don't usually listen to them until after we're done, so I'm not influenced. There were a couple of pieces of trivia I'm really glad I did listen that I'm going to bring up during our talk. Oh, cool. But several of their geek references, be it Indiana Jones, The Lord of the Rings, I already swear I had in my notes, and they were doing the same references. And I was like, I had Last Crusade in here. I had Lord of the Rings in here. Okay, fine. But just for the record, because I may have our episode may hew a little closer to theirs than we normally do. They're usually pretty separate episodes. But a lot of the stuff we're going to bring up that's similar was already in my notes, I swear to God.
Okay.
But there's a thing or two. For instance, I'll say right off the bat, one thing I did not catch that I'm really glad I learned from theirs was we had the scene of Cisco shaving with that thing. And I was wondering, is this the first scene of Star Trek where we've seen somebody doing toiletries things? Because I know in Discovery we get a toothbrushing scene, but in general we don't usually see that. And they mentioned in their episode that this was the exact same razor prop that was used in the Next Generation episode Code of Honor when Geordi was shaving. And that was I know they talked about anytime you mention Code of Honor, it's bad. But in this case, but what's really interesting is LeVar Burton directs this episode. And they did not mention that. But in my head, I'm like, oh, Code of Honor, LeVar Burton, Geordi shaving. How interesting. But anyway.
I thought I wrote down at some point, oh, it's a quest that turns into a mystery. And then as soon as I wrote that, Core, I think one of them says, it's a quest. I'm like, okay, it's still a quest. But I wrote down Treasures of Sierra Madre, and that's what and that's the point in the episode where I was like, oh, this is Treasure of the Sierra Madre. They're both losing their minds, and Dax is the only one that's kind of keeping it together. But even she's starting to lose it with those two, because I thought it at that point it stopped being. I mean, the Klingonness of them was driving them, but it wasn't necessarily a Klingon thing. It was these two guys are like, oh, I could be the one to bring everything together. Oh no, I could be the one. And then I just think in general, I like seeing Worf be kind of a lunatic too.
We've seen it before.
Yeah,
we have.
Yeah,
Worf being a lunatic, like that's not necessarily new information.
Yeah,
which helps us like gel it together and make sense of it.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll I've never seen Treasures of Sierra Madre, and as you said that, I'm like, that's a really big hole in my repertoire. So I made a note on my to-do list that I need to watch it. But yeah, we'll get to the movie references as we go. But this definitely felt like it referenced so many adventure movies.
Yep.
So we start with Kor telling a story in the bar, and I absolutely effing adore the aspect of Kor that he exaggerates his story so much.
Yeah.
Like, I know Worf's like, well, that's not honorable or whatever. Jadzia finds it charming. I'm fully in the Jadzia Dax camp. Yeah, we all understand that what he's saying is not real, but he's such a good storyteller. Who cares?
I like that they continued to hit on that, because I wrote initially when Quark says, you know what I like about Klingon stories? Nothing. I was like, I'm with you right now, Quark.
No, I completely disagree on that point, but I was fully amused by Quark's line about the reason he doesn't like them is because lots of people die and there's no profit.
Nobody makes any money. No profit, yeah.
I thought I did initially misinterpret Worf's grumpiness as not enjoying the story, having a problem with Kor.
Yeah.
I did not think of it as I'm in awe of this man. He's a hero to me, and I'm embarrassed to be in his presence.
Yeah.
Which makes more sense, though, because if he just hated every aspect, why was he in the bar in the first place?
Right.
He was in the bar because he wanted to hear. He just was too embarrassed to go up and approach.
And
we can all relate to that.
That's a nice turn. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
O'Brien likes storytelling, which I think was a nice callback to what was it, season 1, The Storyteller, when O'Brien told the story and stopped the beast. I liked that.
Yeah, but who cares? He tells it well, so.
Right. I fully buy into that summation, because who doesn't? Well, okay, so I'm biased. I consider myself a bit of a storyteller, though I do it in the written word, not orally. I wish I had the talent to do it orally. But I will say I really gravitated towards one of my uncles. I loved this uncle. He's no longer with us, sadly. But he would tell these not crazy stories, like totally believable stories that were such BS. I remember distinctly one time I took Morgan over to his house for a party when we were early married. So she didn't know him very well yet. And he had chickens at the time. And so we had a cook at his house and we were eating, and he came up to our table and he was just getting to know Morgan. So I think he came up to our table to try to get more ingratiated with her and introduce, And so he's like, have you seen my chickens? And she's like, yeah, of course, because we went and saw the chickens. He's like, well, those are Rhode Island Reds. And he proceeds for 5 to 10 minutes to tell you all about the specific breed of Rhode Island Reds and everything about Rhode Island Reds. Do you know there's no breed of chickens called Rhode Island Reds? Now, he is the type of guy that after he spews this for 5 or 10 minutes, looks at her and goes, I just made all that up, right? Like, he doesn't, he's not trying to pull it over on you. No. He's just trying to entertain. And he also, another thing I remember him saying is, because he would have cookouts and he'd lay out food. And he said, it doesn't matter how the food tastes, how it looks is 90%. And it's the same thing, right? It's the same principle.
Yeah.
Of like spinning the right yarn, presenting the right thing. Dick Daly, great man. I miss him dearly. And Court, in my mind, is a Dick Daly. Yeah. Somebody I aspire to be. I don't think I hit those heights, but something I admire and aspire. So I don't know. There might have been that personal thing that just stuck.
Yeah.
Had a huge problem with during that scene. They talked about the rivers running red with blood. When Klingon blood is not red, it's pink. Even though Worf's was red in this episode, I wanted the Pepto-Bismol. Where the heck? I honestly think Star Trek 6 is the only example in Star Trek where the Klingons' blood is pink. I think it's red every other time. And I know it was done just for budget, or not budget rating. That was going to be rated R if it was red blobs instead of pink floating through the air. But it still greatly offends me that the rest of Star Trek canon did not respect that. Because the original series was never bloody. It's not like they were going against anything. So why not just make them pink from there on out? Why do you have to go back to red after that? So, yeah, I had a big problem. Big problem with the running red crap. Kor, I loved Kor's introduction to Worf, where Dax is like, "Have you met Worf?" And he's like, "The traitor who betrayed our people. You're a thorn in Gowron's side. I love you. Welcome. It's so nice to meet you."
They got me because I rolled my eyes as soon as like the traitor. I'm like, come on. I was like, okay, you got me. They got me.
Yeah. Oh, it's good because yes, it's a great turn. It's a very amusing moment. It's totally aligned with Kor. And I also had never thought about it before, whether Kor would like Gowron. But of course, Kor doesn't like Gowron. There's nothing about Kor that says, I like Gowron. Everything about Kor is opposite of what Gowron is.
Yeah.
So I loved that aspect of it. And I agree with him. And this will not be the last time we deal with Kor and Gowron and their disagreement over politics. So nice seed planted. Stay tuned. We'll get into Gowron hasn't showed up in Deep Space Nine yet, has he? Was he in The Way of the Warrior, maybe?
I thought we might have had him once.
We might have had him in The Way of the Warrior.
I think
I don't remember for sure. I think he was in The Way of the Warrior.
Yeah.
But he will do a bunch of Deep Space Nine appearances. He just hasn't got here yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Kor did drop the mention of Kirk and his facing him, and that made me excited.
Yes.
So
that made me happy. Of course.
The talk about the cloth, I wrote down he guessed. I can't remember the context of that line. The cloth that had the imprint of the sword.
Yeah, the Shroud of Turin or thing.
Yeah. I love that he found out about it drunk in a bar. It's 1,400 years old, which is shit. I mean, that does. I mean, I guess Shroud of Turin is supposedly 2,000 years old, but most actual Christian mythology dates to 1,400 to 1,700 years ago. It doesn't actually date all the way back to the birth of Christ, right? Like the Bible wasn't put together in year 25. It was put together in like 300 or 400 AD.
Right. Yeah.
So, Kor was the Klingon ambassador to Vulcan. Who did he tick off, and is that why he hates Gowron? I mean, seriously, what Klingon wants to be the ambassador to Vulcan?
That's a good question.
Do you think it's only because
he had like
the encounter with Spock, and they're like, "You're one of the few Klingons I've actually dealt with"?
Knows him, yeah.
The idea of the mission that they find this Sword of Kahless, it will repair the relationship between Starfleet and the Klingons. That's what Sisko says. That's why he approves it. That's great. I love it's a tiny detail, and it does end up being a driving force. But I really liked that as a motivating factor, like a secondary thing for the Starfleet personnel to be like, yeah, Worf and Kor aren't on this mission for this. And Dax maybe totally isn't, but there's that underlying thing of if we succeed, we could fix what just fell apart 10 episodes ago or less than 10 episodes ago.
And I'll say that, and like I said, I kind of turned as the episode went along, but initially I'm like, I don't give a crap about some sword. And then, like I said, as the episode went along, I was like, okay, I get what we're referencing. And all the things they're referencing are things that I love. I'm like, okay. Because I think I was we talked about Code of Honor a little while ago. I think I was in that mode of thinking. And obviously we're a long way from Code of Honor here, which isn't even a Klingon episode. Yeah. And then as it went along, it was, like I said, the sword became other things. And I read one of the production notes, which I really like this. And it's one of the reasons I end up liking the episode is and I think not all Star Trek fans agree with this. They wanted some kind of they wanted the sword to have some kind of technological reason that it affected them. Mm-hmm. And they were like, no, this is just, they're both.
Or magic.
Yeah.
You could see it being that. This is where the Lord of the Rings thing comes in. It's like my precious, because whoever was holding it was corrupted. But you're absolutely right. I think it's far more interesting that it is their ego and their culture that activates it rather than an actual mystical explanation.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, that, like I said, now I referenced Treasure Star Excalibur is another one I thought about. But yeah, because at some point I wrote, oh, caves, Klingons, cliffs, honor. Oh boy. But then, like I said, after that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm like I said, I thought it just became these three characters. Anyway,
which are if you're gonna build a character centric episode around three characters, I'm not complaining about Core, Jadzia, and Worf as the three.
No, especially when Jadzia is kind of she's the calming force.
Right. They talk about the rumor was that the sword was lost in the Gamma Quadrant, and for a minute I was like, well, that's super suspicious. That of course it's not the real sword; it's a trap. But then you think about it, like it was 1400 years ago. We know there have been like rumors or even like stories of people that like stumbled on the wormhole without knowing what it was. We've never even heard of this alien species that supposedly stole it from the Klingons. So maybe that's part of why. I mean, it does actually gel for me that they couldn't quite, make that add up. Like the Gamma Quadrant, that kind of gelled for me. It did strike me, and I don't think I mentioned this in the first episode when Kor was talking about Kor, Koloth, Kang. You think their nickname was the KKK?
In my notes, I almost did that, and I wrote Crazy Klingon with both Ks, and I was like, no, we're going to stop at 2. We're going to stop at 2.
I don't know why that didn't occur to me the first time around, and I have not re-listened to the episode to confirm, but I'm pretty sure we never referenced the KKK in that first episode.
No, I don't think I'm confident we did.
It was just because the original series needed all their Klingons with Ks, which probably tells you something about Gene Roddenberry we didn't know before. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Connect the dots.
Hopefully. The dream of the fellows, though, I mean, I think that says a lot about Kor. Yes, it's big, bombastic, exaggerated storytelling, which we already knew about him from an earlier scene. What that scene reveals is how much he cares about reputation. He wants to be seen alongside his friends as one of the giants of the Klingon Empire because they have statues. He wants a statue. But it also tells you how much he misses them, I thought. Like, I'm used to going on these quests with them, and I'm okay with Worf. I love Dax. But, like, he just wants to be with Koloth and Kang. And that's, you almost think, like, if this episode had been written slightly different, it could end with him willingly self-sacrificing so that he could join his fellows in the afterlife.
Yeah. It definitely, it's a thing we dealt with the original crew of, the world's passing by in good and bad ways, whether through the movies or TNG. So, but I think it does make sense. I think that's some of Kor's motivation also is that, like, well, I'm old and things are passing me by, but this would be the crowning achievement. And I can, I can go,
which takes such a sudden turn when he's like, now I'm going to rule the Klingon Empire. She's like, wait, you're old, like doing a last hurrah. Now you're going to run the Klingon Empire?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like pathetic in a like believable, realistic, but like an old guy trying to recapture the glory of his youth.
Yeah, and I think it's like the best form of space madness because, like I said, there's no magic thing. There's nothing. The sword's talking to him, but it's not talking to him. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And like the scene, the kind of the breaking point when he's hanging and holding on to it, and
then Worf throws the ring into the fire. I mean, the sword.
Worf's like,
into the lava. Let go.
There's a ledge beneath
sword at the beginning.
Yeah. At first, I'm like, what is? Yeah, he should just let go. Let Worf have it. And then I'm like, nope, that doesn't make sense. And then it gets reinforced right after that. So
Well, I also thought of that, and there's going to be a lot of notes here about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, that it was like hanging down, and it's like, just let go of the cup, and she just keeps reaching for the cup, and then she falls to her death.
Yep.
Kor did not, though, fall to his death.
Yep.
They find the sword, backing up a little bit, in the secret room. I liked that aspect of the secret room. But I will say, as they went in there, and it was just there in the middle, and it was so ornately decorated, unlike the regular ones. I wanted there to be 50 batlets, and they had to choose wisely. And of course, the one that was in this episode would have been the wrong choice. That would be like the Germans choosing the fancy cup in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and they needed some like stone-hued batleth in the corner to be the real one. I mean, honestly, my alternate episode was just make this like The Last Crusade, where there's a bunch of booby traps, and then you have to make a decision that tells you something about yourself and your beliefs. You have chosen poorly, which clearly both Kor and Worf did.
I do think it is funny when he's using it to eat the food.
Right? I enjoyed that a lot, but I also got his excuse of, we're Klingons, we're not fancy. This was used for this stuff before.
Yeah.
Why are you being so precious about it? I see both sides of this one.
Yeah.
For sure. So I think I would have to come down on the side of Kor, as long as he's not going to do something that's damaging it. And it's a sword. It should be able to handle a little hot food.
Yeah.
It's.
Just about, I think I'm backing up a little. Or we meet Terrell and those guys. The House of Duras just isn't what it used to be.
So we've seen Terrell before.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't this actor, Rick
Pasqualone,
who's best known for NCIS Los Angeles, just one episode, but best known for it. Tulsa King, 2 episodes. Mank, that was a good movie. And Mafia Definitive Edition video game. He's got 124 credits. Looks like a lot of them are voice acting in video games. But good for him. He wasn't super memorable in this role, but also, I think it was a child actor the last time we saw this character. Do you remember?
Oh, okay.
He was the kid Klingon we saw with Lursen Bietor, that they were like, he's our last male heir, and we're going to put him up to be. Yeah.
Okay.
So I did appreciate that the whole reason the bad guys are after them is because Kor got drunk and ran his mouth. That fits Kor to a T, and it also balances out. If you thought Kor is this old hero of legend, as he himself believes it to be, you understand why Worf doesn't, because of stuff like this. I don't know. I thought it was really good. And
it's the classic tale of the guy who's, the good time when you're having the good times, you're a lot of fun. And then at some point you just become the old drunk, which I find that very relatable sometimes these days. But yeah, I thought that was good. Rick Pasqualone also did 3 episodes of Friends as the croupier.
Nice.
Must have been the Vegas episodes, 1999. So and two episodes of Family Guy. So
Vegas episode was the hand model too, right? Or is that different with Tom Lennon? Never mind. I'm probably way off. I remember the hand model dealing cards, but maybe I'm off on when that happened. I liked the trick when they had the Doris thing. I like them saying about the Duras, give it to him, and then he goes right through. And Zoe, after that exchange, my daughter, 8 years old, was like, but he didn't give it to him. Yes, he did. He ran it right through him. I like that they knocked over the force field behind them to cover their escape. I don't have a problem with the Klingons actually figuring out their way through it and catching up. That all tracked for me. What I didn't like was Worf knocks over the equipment and then they just leave it in the cave. The Starfleet,
oh yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you bring that with you? That's valuable. I guess Starfleet doesn't have money, so they don't care if they leave some equipment behind. But yeah, that bothered me. It's like whenever you watch a TV show or movie and people leave food or drinks on the table when they storm out, it's like, why are you wasting? We're not wasters. Yeah, I said Worf's blood is red, which harkens back to earlier when I was complaining about the Klingon blood should be pink. And then Kor turns on Worf, and that is a Frodo Samwise moment. But also, it does play in the Klingon heart, you should have killed him. You should have killed Terrell.
Right.
And from the Klingon perspective, I get why Kor landed on that. That Worf should have killed Terrell, even if he was young. It makes sense. This is a family you're feuding. They've come back to bite us. They're both to blame for this. Worf thinks the sword belongs in a museum. Some more Indiana Jones reference. But, he's probably right. But I don't know. I really have a hard time believing the whole Klingon Empire is going to fall in line just because of a sword.
That's where I started. That's where I went to Excalibur. Is this really going to unite and everyone's going to follow whoever? And of course, in Excalibur, actually, everyone's like, no, Arthur's not the guy. And then eventually he becomes that guy. But they still have to go to battle and fight and all that stuff. And his dad's a terrible person, too. Speaking of more things not everyone here is great. But And I obviously none of them pulled it out of a stone, but they kind of did.
They pulled it out of a secret room where it was resting on the stone.
I did just read, and I missed this last night when I was doing my research, but the Wikipedia says that initially producers were disappointed with the initial fan reaction, but critics later gave a mostly positive response to the episode and compared it to Indiana Jones and the Treasure of the Sierra Madre. So,
yeah,
and I just it by no means is it like a ripoff of either of those. I just think it works. It works with what's going on here. Those are.
I almost wish it was more of a ripoff of.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Worf talks about as a child having the vision of Kahless or Kahless. I feel like that's kind of come up before too. Maybe not that specific vision, but his visions and beliefs and things seems very Klingon. Worf has spirituality, even if he doesn't have religion. The fall with the ledge. Did you, for any moment, what did you think in the moment? Was Worf telling the truth or lying when he said, "There's a ledge, just let it go"?
I thought in the moment he was telling the truth, but then later when they were like, I can't remember, it's Dax, or I think it's Dax who's like, didn't believe that there was a ledge.
Kor didn't believe there was a ledge. He asked Dax to look, but because she was holding Worf, she couldn't see.
Yeah.
And you just had to take Worf's opinion on faith.
Looking at it from our perspective, it didn't seem like there was a ledge to me. And
well, they didn't show us what was under him.
Yeah, I would have just been like, no, there's not. Pull me up, jackass.
Well, especially because they've been not getting along, and Kor doesn't know Worf. As somebody that's watched him for, 8 years at this point, 9 years?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think Worf would let him die, but it turns out, like, that ledge story was questionable at best. There was a ledge, but both Kor and Dax said, yeah, but he couldn't land on it. He would tumble to his death. There was a narrow ledge.
Yeah.
And I don't think Worf meant to kill Kor, but I do think Worf in that moment was like, well, if he falls, he falls. Like, he's got a chance, and he doesn't deserve more than a chance. And it's not my fault if he doesn't take that chance well enough.
Yeah. And
I was a little surprised to hear there wasn't a solid ledge underneath it, though.
To that point, I was, I mentioned earlier, oh, great, we're in caves again. I read they did a ton of work to try and make the caves not look like other caves. And I thought they did. Because to be fair, it took me a while to be like, we've been in a cave for about 10 minutes here, or maybe longer. But I thought it was, again, to that point, it was enough for me to be like, there's no ledge underneath him. I don't think there's a ledge there.
What I did want to know, and this is the point of the episode, I wrote this down, even though I should have thought this much earlier, is how are these caves lit?
That's always an excellent question.
They're deep underground, clearly. They're not near surface or where there'd be any light whatsoever.
Yeah.
And none of them are carrying any type of flashlight or torch, which we've seen in other episodes, so it's not like... And yes, it's true that in other episodes they use the flashlight, and it's usually a square they have to waste a hand on. Like, it's not... The amount of light being put off never matches what's actually shown projecting the light. But in this, they don't even bother. LeVar Burton's just like, don't even worry about a flashlight. People will just be fine that they can see. That bothered me a bit. I applauded Dax that she shot them both. I thought that was the right...
Yes.
Well, actually, I'll take that back. I don't think it was the right decision because the enemy was still right there. And you thought you had them subdued, but you stun Kor and Worf, and all of a sudden two of the other ones wake up and you're screwed. It wasn't a smart thing, even if I understand her frustration. But then she does threaten Toril or whatever so that it actually, so they turned off the jamming signal. And that was good because that definitely needed to happen.
I guess that's a classic Trek or comic book or both things. Like, shoot him! No, shoot him! Screw it, I'm shooting both of you.
Yeah.
It's the enemy within. It's going all the way back to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, they didn't leave her a lot of choice, but also, they're her allies in this situation. So
I didn't write this down, but it stuck with me. So she's getting mad at them, then she's like, I'm going to sleep. And she's sleeping with the phaser in her hand.
And the batleth.
I was like, that does not seem conducive to sleep or safety at all.
I don't think, no matter how tired I am, I don't think I could have laid down and gone to sleep in that circumstance.
Nope, me either. Yeah. Definitely not with those, my head resting on the batleth and the phaser next to me. Yeah.
So once the signal has been unjammed, I mean, I guess Worf and Core didn't want to kill her, so she could sleep comfortably.
That's true.
They both protect her. But yeah, once the signal's unjammed, they beam back to the shuttle or runabout, finally. Mm-hmm. And then they talk a lot about destiny, of whose destiny it is, because Klingons believe in destiny. And I think I buy Worf and Core's beliefs are both sincere. But tossing it into space, and did they let it off into space in the Gamma Quadrant, or did they come back to the Alpha Quadrant first? That wasn't clear, and I really thought that mattered on how lost the sword was. But I guess space is so big, anywhere you just let it tumble. But why was it tumbling? Because to tumble in space, you need to have been pushed off of something. There needs to be some force, because in zero gravity, you're going to hang just in the middle, unless there's some force moving you. And they beamed it. The transport just beamed it from a stable position to a stable position. It wouldn't have had a push to start spinning or going in any direction.
And I backed that up because I was like, wait, what are they doing exactly? And I was like, okay. And then I don't know if we need the shot of the batleth in space, but
well, I think we did, because at that point I was a little confused on what they did.
Oh, that's a good point.
I was expecting to see that they had like beamed into a sun, which would have made more sense. What they did with it was, I mean, you're leaving it there where anybody can find it. They're not likely to, but also, what's the point? They made the point in the Greatest Gen podcast. They're like, Dax lives hundreds of years. If the two of you don't want to do this, this is such an important artifact. Why don't you give it to Dax and she'll bring it out at the appropriate time, rather than just throw it into space where you may never see it again.
Yeah, I mean, should any Klingon really have it or find it? It sounds like they're saying no Klingon can handle this.
I don't know if no Klingon can handle it. I mean, that's definitely what they wanted you to walk away with. I thought these two particular people, and I don't want to trust Gowron or anything either, but I was more come away thinking, well, neither of these two are worthy, but there could definitely be a Klingon that's worthy.
You know what? It just dawned on me. This is another Excalibur reference, actually.
Only the one. Yeah.
They throw it into the Lady of the Lake has the Excalibur.
Mm-hmm.
And she will come back, and whoever the new king will be, which, depending on what you read, that's Jesus when he comes back, at least on Earth. But it just hit me that's pretty much what they did. They're like, nope, we're going to throw it out of here, and somebody's going to find it, and that will be the person. Yeah. The last line of the episode is, when it is destined to be found, it will be. That's. It's not an exact quote from Excalibur or the Canterbury Tales or whatever, or the Morte Arthur or whatever, but at least the movie Excalibur, which that's just making me like this even more. Yeah. I like that it was this, go back to the secret room. For whatever reason, I just wish it was, but I guess that's our Indiana Jones, that it was sitting there and they could just grab it, but.
Well, they should have had to put a sandbag on the pedestal.
Exactly.
Why?
No.
In the runabout, why was it on a stand? Where did they get the stand? And why didn't the stand not beam with it in this space?
Yeah.
It should have been laying on the floor, right? Like that was purely for directing purposes. LeVar Burton's like, I don't care if it doesn't make sense. I want to frame it that way.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I know LeVar Burton's doing a ton of directing this era. Like, other than Jonathan Frakes, he was probably the Star Trek actor that directed the most. I'm going to say I'm starting to see the reason why Jonathan Frakes is the one that directed TNG films and is directing New Trek, and LeVar Burton didn't do either of those things. Like, he's not a bad director, but he's not one of the greats either. There's definitely some choices that feel like directing choices that I question.
Some of the direction stuff I read, he had a little. I shouldn't say affected the script, but affected the direction, which is what directors do. But I also hear what you're saying. Yeah.
So in terms of the script, this episode was written, our story by Richard Danis, who has a bunch of writing credits, including 8 episodes of TNG and 2 episodes of DS9. His 8 TNG episodes are all season 3. Oh, he was the executive story editor. I don't actually. He wrote he's got teleplay by Booby Trap and written by Deja Q. but the rest of those credits are executive storytelling. And then he also has a teleplay by for season 1 of Deep Space Nine, Battle Lines. Don't remember that. Deep Space Nine, this is it. Oh, this episode is his very last credit on IMDb. He did die in 2020, but this was 25 years later before that. So he doesn't have a ton of credits. Then it was actually teleplay by Hans Beimler, who was a producer on Deep Space Nine for years. And he was a producer on Next Gen before that. So I'm sure we've talked about him. And then the other thing of note on IMDb was the character of Soto, who was the alien that did the mind thing. We'd seen this species once before, right? He did it to Bashir. But it was different actor, different character, but same species, which is fun that they brought that back. I don't know if they'll bring it back again, but Tom Morga played Soto, and Tom Morga is mostly a stuntman, but he was in several of the films, the motion picture, The Final Frontier, Undiscovered Country, as a stuntman. So he was around. He played a Klingon previously in the motion picture. So he was proud. I don't know if he was grateful enough to wear the Klingon makeup for this, because his makeup looked just as bad, but...
My alternate episode, my last note is, I wish, like, as they got there, like, they ran into Picard and a bunch of other space archaeologists. And it was more of that kind of thing. Even more of an Indiana Jones kind of a thing. But Picard and, who's this girl?
Dash?
Yes. Yeah. I would have liked that.
That would have been fun. Yeah. Although she left with Q, remember?
That's true.
Oh, we don't know. Q left her somewhere. She was in an episode of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. And that was my last note.
Wonderful. Let's get to the rankings. Who is your shady character in this episode?
Terrell, I think.
How is he shady?
I just don't like him.
I didn't like him either, but I couldn't think of a reason why he was shady.
Yeah.
Because, like, he was pretty upfront with what he was. I really struggle with shady this week because, like, Core tells exaggerated lies, but he doesn't expect anybody to believe them. He thinks he's upfront about everything else. It's just, and other than that, people didn't really lie in this episode. I mean, you could say the sword if you believed that it had some mysticism or magic, but I don't.
I think it's all Core and War said, yeah.
Yeah, I do too. And so, I don't know. I'm really, really torn, and I've never just opted out before of any of these for any reason. But I can't think of any example, even like a throwaway line, that felt shady in this episode. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do his Gowron because he came up a bunch and how shady and much of a politician he was.
Fair enough.
I'm throwing Gowron even though he's not even in the episode.
I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing Gowron into anything.
I mean, he is shady as hell every time we see him.
He is.
So, yeah, and he's a weak leader, which is part of the motivation for why Core and Worf are trying so hard to replace him. Because he's not a noble warrior, that we would want as the Chancellor of the Klingon Empire in a perfect world, even though we all know we don't live in a perfect world. I mean, I don't know about you, but I know I don't.
Nope.
Who was your annoyance this week?
Core.
Really? I'm actually surprised to hear you say Core.
Although he's also the person I'm going to have a drink with. So.
Well,
he and I are similar in that I think he and I would have a good time hanging out.
So I put Toral Duras as the annoying one. Because even though I understood the motivation, it made sense. It was like... But I agree with you on Core because we're drinking. He's going to tell me fascinating stories, and I don't care if they're exaggerated. He seems like a great drinking buddy.
Yes. I was out with some people last night, and it would be the wrong side of Core. They sent an apology. I mean, I've been that guy too, so I was like, that's not necessary. But, we know how it goes.
We sure do. Yeah. Ranking the episode. This was by no means a bad episode. If we were putting it on Voyager, I'd probably start middle to high or middle high.
Yeah.
But because of what this season of Deep Space Nine has been, I'm going to start at the bottom. And it's not because I don't like this episode. It's just because this season's been so freaking strong. Bottom right now is Hippocratic Oath or Bashir.
That's...
Yeah. I might go above, but not much.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning. I didn't think that when I first started watching this episode, but by the time it was over, and as we've discussed, the elements were very cool.
I like this episode. I do. Top of even a season of Deep Space Nine, let alone like the series. But I enjoyed it. It was fun. Anyway, any Klingon episode where you've got Worf, Dax, and Core, I'm here for it. So above that right now is Little Green Men. Wow. And I'm already like hesitating.
Yeah. I really like the Little Green Men. So.
Me too.
Yeah.
I would be, as much as I love Core, and this feels really weird. I don't think going into this, I would have thought either one of us would be willing to rank Core. Original series, Daja Math or whatever.
Right.
This low, but I think this is where it belongs, underneath Little Green Men, above Hippocratic Oath. Okay, that's where it is. Thankfully, this isn't Core's last appearance. He survived it, and Deep Space Nine will bring him back again. So, John Colicos, I look forward to your next appearance.
I love it. Yeah.
Because you're fun. And if this is the worst Deep Space Nine is going to get this season, I'm here for it. Like, that would be a stellar season of television. Next week, back to Voyager maneuvers. After the Kazon steals some Federation technology, Chakotay goes after them on his own and is captured. We are in for the return of First Maja Kula. We are in for the return of Seska.
Yes. Now I'm excited.
And you'll finally get to see her in her natural form as a Cardassian.
Oh, all right.
Because she's been a Bajoran thus far.
Oh,
but we found out last time she was secretly a Cardassian in disguise. Right. So when she shows back up, I do have both action figures, the Bajoran and the Cardassian. When she shows back up, she's now
I'm excited.
I will have to say, I think the Bajoran version is much more attractive personally.
Gotcha.
But I still love the character, right? Yeah. Like, the character's great. So, until then, live long.
At least until you find that sword and prosper.
I mean, that's the one scenario I can imagine murdering you, Stephen. If we've got the sword and you're hanging off a cliff. And then really, I'm not really murdering you. If you miss the tiny, tiny ledge, that's your fault.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?